Level 1, the wire clerk. A mid-size import firm in Istanbul needs someone who understands numbers. That's you. You're 24, sitting at a desk with 3 monitors, a lukewarm coffee, and one job. Watch the accounts. If a transfer comes in flagged with a Tehran reference code, you reroute it through a shell in Dubai. If a payment traces back to Minsk, you break it into 7 smaller wires before it touches a correspondent bank. You're paid $2,000 a month. Clean. No titles. The other staff don't talk to you. You're furniture. But you're learning. You see how the architecture works. Western banks process your transactions twice a day. They wave them through. They're chasing fee volume. The real threat is swift compliance officers. They can't be negotiated with. One morning, a transfer triggers an automatic hold. You freeze. You used the wrong intermediary. A man appears in your office doorway. He doesn't yell. He just sets a folder on your desk and looks at you. Next time, this firm doesn't exist, and neither do you. You don't make that mistake again. Level 2, the document builder. You're 27. A lawyer in a Limassol office approaches you at a conference. You understand correspondent banking? Of course you do. Good. Monday morning, come to the address on this card. You show up. There's a room with 4 associates and a whiteboard covered in jurisdiction maps. The structure is already designed. A Cypriot holding company owns a Hong Kong trading entity, which invoices a legitimate German manufacturer for consulting services never actually rendered. The real client? A Russian oligarch whose assets were frozen 6 weeks after the invasion. Your job? Create the paper trail that makes the invoices look real. Contracts, delivery records, insurance certificates. If regulators pull the thread, they find a clean spool. If they pull deeper, they find another clean spool. You get $15,000 per structure built. If it unravels, you spend a decade in a German federal prison. You build it anyway. You file the paperwork. Every time a compliance query lands in your inbox, your stomach drops, but it bounces back with a clean response. You've never held this much money in your life. You build another one the following month, and the one after. You're making more in a quarter than your father made in a decade running a legitimate accounting practice. Your work becomes routine. You stop feeling the weight of it. That's when people get sloppy. That's when they get caught. Your contact at the Cyprus firm gets arrested during a joint EU-US task force sweep. He's looking at 12 years. The network doesn't send lawyers. They just find a new document builder. Level 3, the relationship manager. You've been building structures for 3 years. No arrests, no unravelings. You've proven your discretion. Now they give you a phone with encrypted contacts and a list of clients. You're a relationship manager. Sanctioned governments and oligarchs in the network pay a monthly retainer to keep their money moving. A Venezuelan state oil company needs to settle a crude invoice in dollars without triggering OFAC. A North Korean trade delegation needs to repatriate earnings from a front business in Macau. An Iranian petrochemical firm needs to buy German industrial equipment whose manufacturer thinks they're selling to a UAE distributor. You manage all of it. And if you want to understand how money at this level actually works, subscribe. The next levels are where it gets really interesting. You fly business class to Geneva, Singapore, Beirut. You sit across from men in very expensive suits who speak very calmly about very large numbers. Most of them transfer without issue. They know the value of a reliable operator. But there's always someone who gets impatient. A client demands same-day settlement on a $40 million transfer that needs 3 weeks of layering to move safely. You explain this. He tells you he doesn't care. You push it through the wrong way. A correspondent bank in Frankfurt freezes the account and files a suspicious activity report. You spend 4 months quietly dismantling that structure before anyone connects it to you. The next month, the client pays double your rate for the inconvenience. You're making $80,000 a month. You buy a flat in Mayfair under a nominee name. You fly your mother to London. She doesn't ask how you afford any of this. She just cries and holds your face in her hands. Level 4, the network coordinator. You're 33. You run a node. 12 operators across 6 jurisdictions. Your job is straightforward. Move sanctioned money and leave no traceable corridor. The network supplies you with a client list generating $500 million in annual flow. You break it down. You assign structures. You manage the correspondent relationships. You send the fees up the chain. You keep 8%. That's $3 to $4 million a year sitting in an account in Vanuatu. You're also responsible for containment. If a journalist at Reuters starts pulling on a thread connecting one of your Dubai entities to a Russian defense contractor, you respond. Not with violence. With lawyers, with document floods, with strategically leaked counter-narratives. You don't wait for instructions. You handle it. An investigative unit in Brussels publishes a preliminary finding naming one of your holding companies in a sanctions evasion pattern. You spend 6 weeks and $400,000 in legal fees burying it under a mountain of incorporation documents from 4 different countries. It never becomes a story. You're living well. You have a house in Lisbon under an EU golden visa. You have a partner who thinks you work in emerging market advisory. You have respect inside a world that doesn't officially exist. But you're managing chaos. Your operators are greedy and impatient. They cut corners. They use the same nominee director twice in 3 structures. They leave metadata in PDF files. You have to discipline them. Sometimes that means cutting them out. Sometimes it means a quiet meeting where you explain exactly what prison looks like for people in this business. The pressure from above is constant. The senior network wants higher throughput. Always more flow. If you don't deliver volume, you're a liability. And liabilities in this world don't get fired. They get reported to the very authorities they're hiding from. Level 5, the regional architect. You control a corridor now. Maybe it's the Gulf to Europe channel or the Southeast Asia remittance loop. You have 4 node coordinators reporting to you. You design the infrastructure. Procurement front companies in Singapore, trade finance facilities in Bahrain, cryptocurrency conversion desks in Dubai registered as legitimate exchanges. Your meetings happen in hotel suites that change every week. You arrive separately from your security consultant. You carry a phone you bought with cash that morning. Your job is to think 3 regulations ahead. A new EU beneficial ownership directive is coming. You redesign your European structures before it passes. An FATF gray listing adds Mauritius to the monitored list. You migrate 6 of your client entities to the Cayman Islands before the compliance window closes. You're also managing the money on your own money. Millions in fees flow through your hands annually. You can't hold it in any institution connected to your real identity. You buy apartment blocks in Tbilisi through a Georgian law firm. You acquire a small private equity stake through a Liechtenstein foundation. You're clearing $200,000 a month in personal income. You have identities across 4 passports. You have a family in 1 country and a life in 3 others. You tell everyone something slightly different. None of it is entirely false. None of it is remotely true. But the walls are tightening. A former colleague has been cooperating with the DOJ for 11 months. You know this because someone inside told you. So you move everything. You change every structure. You replace every nominee. You go dark for 60 days. You resurface in a different city with a different setup. You sleep 4 hours a night. You trust no one who benefits from trusting you. Level 6, the primary facilitator. You serve the states now. Not individuals, governments. North Korea's weapons procurement channels run through accounts you designed. Iran's oil revenue moves through corridors you built. Russia's oligarchs park wealth in structures your network maintains. You're generating $2 billion in annual flow for the network. But you are completely invisible. No public profile. No LinkedIn. No photos anywhere. You exist in documents only as a nominee name in a Seychelles registry. You live in a compound in Montenegro or a quiet villa outside Geneva. Armed private security. Electronic countermeasures. Your work is geopolitical now. You negotiate with state intelligence officials. You don't take orders from them. You make them proposals. A percentage of the take, guaranteed discretion, infrastructure they couldn't build themselves. Most of them accept. The ones who don't create new problems. You're also a logistician at a civilizational scale. Ballistic missile components disguised as agricultural machinery. Semiconductor chips routed through Malaysian distributors to North Korean weapons labs. Sanctions breaking oil flows that keep authoritarian governments solvent and keep their armies fed. You're making $1 million a month personally. The number is abstract. You haven't thought about money as a real thing in years. You have everything a human being could materially want. You have nothing a human being actually needs. You missed your daughter's first years living out of hotel rooms. You cannot call your mother on her birthday because your phone discipline doesn't allow for sentiment. You live in a structure of your own making, and the architecture is suffocating you. You don't know who in your circle is a double. You execute 3 professional separations based on suspicion alone. Better to lose a good operator than to lose everything. Level 7, the systemic enabler. You built this. Maybe you inherited an existing network. Maybe you assembled it contact by contact over 15 years. Either way, you're the infrastructure now. Your network moves $20 billion a year in sanctioned flows. You have operators in 23 countries. You have compromised officials in 9 governments. You are worth somewhere between $4 and $8 billion in assets distributed across instruments no single forensic accountant could ever fully reconstruct. But your name sits in classified files at the Treasury Department, the FBI, GCHQ, the BND, and Interpol. There is no bounty. There is no wanted poster. That's how serious this is. They want you so quietly that the public doesn't even know they're looking. You move between identities. You've had your biometrics altered twice. Your own network knows you by a name that isn't yours. You sit in rooms with the finance ministers of pariah states, and you are the reason their governments have not collapsed under Western economic pressure. You are the circulatory system of a shadow economy that keeps authoritarian regimes alive. You can't stop. If you surface to retire, you know too much. Everyone who might grant you protection has more to gain from handing you over. The most powerful financial criminal in the world is also the most useful and therefore the most expendable. Level 8, the indictment. They got you. Maybe it was a cooperating witness. Maybe it was 17 years of financial forensics finally assembling the complete picture. But you're in a federal courthouse in New York City, and the sealed indictment has 47 counts. Conspiracy to violate the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Money laundering. Material support. Conspiracy to defraud the United States. Your lawyers are excellent. They're also billing $3 million a month. You will never see freedom again as a free man. The network doesn't send rescue. They're already restructuring around your absence. Someone is already sitting in your chair. You had billions. You had an empire made entirely of invisible architecture. Now you have a defense table and the rest of your life to reconstruct in your memory every wire transfer, every structure, every decision that led to this room. Level 9, the continuation. But the network doesn't end with you. Your deputy takes the chair, or a rival node expands to fill the vacuum. Someone always steps up. You were the infrastructure. Now you're a case study in a classified Treasury briefing, a name in a redacted report, a cautionary legend they use to train the next generation of financial intelligence analysts. And somewhere right now, there's a wire clerk at a desk in Istanbul staring at 3 monitors and a flag transfer, about to make their first reroute. This is shadow banking, not a crime in the way people imagine crime. A system, a trillion-dollar architecture built on paperwork and jurisdiction shopping and the deliberate complexity of international finance. And it's still running.